One of his men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
Sunshine Lady by Radio Green. I love this beat.
Yeah, it's great. That's funny. I'm sure many see her as a Sunshine Lady, but let's talk about Melania, the film about First Lady Melania Trump. Now, there's a moment early in the film when the camera lingers on the First Lady's face just a bit too long enough for you to know that the film isn't really about Melania Trump at all. In my opinion, the film is about the idea of Melania Trump, the immaculate surface, the curated silence, the unruffled, unbothered woman who has for nearly a decade been projected upon like a national Rorschach test. And that's the thing about First Ladies, Mert. America never just sees the woman, it sees the story it wants to tell itself. Now, the documentary arrives wrapped in controversy. Could we be talking about that? $75 million price tag. And the director, Brett Ratner, controversial comeback, the no press premiere, the partisan whiplash of its reception. But the real story, Mert, is older, deeper, and frankly more interesting. It's the story of how Americans have always used First Ladies as screens onto which they project their anxieties, their aspirations, their resentment, their fantasies, their hunger for glamour, their nostalgia for gentle politics, and their discomfort with women who wield power without ever being elected to it. Melania didn't invent this dynamic. She just walked into it wearing designer clothes. What do you think about the movie, Mert?
Well, when you use that word project, I think you're projecting, because I think our last guest would say you can't listen to what the right or the extremes say. You got to take the silent majority. And I think the silent majority of people would disagree with you. I think the silent majority would say, we really don't care who the first lady is. You know, we voted for the guy who's in office. Like, we didn't think about the first lady or who the first lady was going to be when we were voting and, you know, during the whole political process. This is something that people who are fascinated with other things besides the policies and, you know, all that important stuff, this is what those type of people get wrapped up in. Well, what is the first lady doing? What are her values? If that was the case, I would go get a woman who's more qualified than me to be the president, to be my wife if I was going to try to run for president. But nobody ever thinks that way. So that's why I'm trying to say, I don't think what the first lady, what she believes in, all this stuff, I don't think it's too important. There's some importance there, but I don't think it's important as you're trying to make it out to be. And I don't think the majority of people are sitting there trying to project what they want to see in a first lady, because I don't think people think about that type of stuff that much. But it is a fascinating conversation, because this movie about Melania, they tried to make it a big deal, but it's just another documentary. And I'm pretty sure she had control over this documentary because she attended it. The president was tweeting about it. So how honest is the documentary going to be if it's one that she commissioned or that she was okay with, that she received money for? So it's all for her image, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But this documentary, the how the American people view the documentary, it is no concern to me, because it has no weight onto the political process and what is Donald Trump actually going to do. Melania Trump has no pull in that direction. I don't feel like she has very much influence over Trump. So trying to make Melania out to be this mythical figure where she's so important to the country, I don't think that's accurate. The only first lady I can say that has been consequential, or the only few, Hillary, Michelle, and that one who was alcoholic and she got a clinic. What's that lady's name? What's the back in the 80s? What was it? The Betty Ford. Betty Ford.
Oh, Betty Ford.
Yeah, she was a drug addict. She did a lot for that. All these celebrities, get hooked on drugs and they run to the Betty Ford clinic. So these are the only first ladies that stick out to me. But I'm pretty sure. Oh, excuse me.
Look, the role of a first lady, Mert, is clearly symbolic, but it's an important role, and I think it helps.
I disagree.
It helps sets the tone. Well,
I disagree.
Look, okay, let's talk about the numbers. Gallup has tracked First Lady favorability for decades, and the patterns are pretty consistent. Before we get to the analysis, let me ask you, Mert, who do you think the most popular First Lady in modern history is? Who is the most popular First Lady?
You mean the most liked, or just the most well-known?
It says popular.
Okay, so I'm going to have to say probably the... Wow, that's a tough one, because I'm thinking of, I can't remember her name, but didn't she cover for Franklin Roosevelt or someone? One of these presidents who was basically out of it and she was running things. I would say if we're going to go by popularity, mean people like her.
You going Eleanor Roosevelt? Is that who?
That's it. That's who I'm talking about.
All right, Eleanor Roosevelt. Alex, got a guess?
Well, I know the answer, but I will say, I feel like because he brings up a lot, I feel like Michelle Obama will be your favorite first lady. Am I right, Mark? Because you bring her up a lot.
Who?
No. Lucas brings her up a lot. I just defend her honor. You're not about to take her out for just being a good first lady. It seems like that a lot of people are trying to criticize Michelle, so I just defend her. So, but what is the correct answer? And don't think I didn't catch that. Alex already knows the answer, so I'm pretty sure.
Because
I caught that.
He took a look at the notes. Barbara Bush, among the most beloved.
That's wrong.
Yes, this is Gallup. Okay,
Gallup.
Yep, regularly scoring in the 70s and 80s in terms of popularity. Number 2, Laura Bush, consistently high, often in the 60s and 70s. So 2 Republican spouses, so there. Number 3, Michelle Obama. Okay, she peaked in the mid-70s after leaving office with a 68% favorability, and that was one of the highest exits ever recorded. So Michelle Obama, number 3. Believe it or not, number 4, Hillary Clinton. Polarizing but formidable, ranging from the high 40s to mid 60s, depending on the time frame. She went up and down. Now, Melania Trump peaked at 57% in 2017. She then dropped into the low 40s, and she's now, according to polls, in the 30s, Mert. She's trailing below her husband, President Trump. Now, go figure. How do you explain that? She's less popular.
Well, I don't think it's anything to do with her or Trump. I think it has everything to do with, well, this is something to do with her, but I don't think it's anything what she believes. I just think she's a foreign woman. She's not from America. So, a lot of Americans are sitting there like, okay, she might be pretty, but she's not American. So I think that's why she gets penalized. Because she has that accent, and it's clear she's not from America.
She's American.
No. She's not from America. It's very clear she's not from America.
Right.
You can tell by accent. So I think
that's why people don't like her. I don't know. What do you think, Alex? Because of her birthplace, people are alienated. I think it's even simpler than that, my friend. Look. 72% of Americans say the First Lady should be visible and engaged. 68% said she should be champion of a cause. And only 29% it's acceptable for a First Lady to remain mostly private. And that's the problem with Melania. She wants to remain private. And I think Pew, another research company, has warned that Americans expect First Ladies to be warm, accessible, relatable, communicative. But alas, Melania is the opposite, and I think that's the problem. She's cool, she's reserved, she's distant, she's enigmatic, and I think that's why her numbers are so.
Well, I would say this.
She's not playing the game, in other words.
That's because she's not an American-born citizen. She comes from a foreign country, so it would be difficult for her to have the values of an American because she didn't grow up here. So her picking out an issue that she wants to champion when she can't even speak English like an American would be very difficult for a lot of Americans to take. They would sit there and say, she has this foreign accent, she comes off as distant, she's a supermodel. It's like, does she really care about what the regular people think, or is she just faking? There was that whole big deal of that jacket she wore, and it's because of situations like this. It's like people don't trust her because of her appearance. She's a foreign supermodel. You can't get no more beautiful than that. That's the image you get when you think of a supermodel. Oh, she's from Paris, France, or whatever. That's her image. So if she tried to come out and do anything else, she's going to get pushed back because of the perception of where she comes from.
Alex, you agree with that? I don't, Alex.
Well, I also think, these other couples have sort of been childhood.
Oh, Alex.
I mean,
Alex.
Trump, and I had to go there, but Trump, went from one relationship to the next, and that's how he got with Melania. I think a lot of people think of that, too. The other ones were childhood sweethearts, George Bush Sr. and Barbara, and then George Bush Jr. and Laura. I mean, all these things, all these people have had natural relationships over the years.
Alex, can you answer this question, though? What did you, do you agree or not?
With you? I mean, I agree with you. I think there is that, too.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear, because you didn't give him an answer, and he needs to hear that.
I don't think that her being a foreigner really plays a significant role. I think it's just her attitude and it's her style. She comes off aloof and distant. And
that's because she's not American.
And the polls are, I don't know, it could just be her personality, having nothing to do with where she was born. But look, let's talk a few minutes that we have, Bert. The documentary cost an unprecedented $75 million, and then involved the director, Brett Ratner, whose Hollywood exile after multiple misconduct allegations made him a return story unto itself. There was no press allowed to enter the premiere, and the partisan reception with IMDb review bombing on one side and CinemaScore A ratings on the other. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel, Mert, joked $75 million for a documentary about Melania Trump. That's not a budget, that's a bribe. And that joke landed because it tapped into a broader suspicion. Why this film? Why now? And why so much money? Do you think Bezos is trying to curry favor? Bezos is the guy that founded Amazon and has all that moon stuff and rocket ships and all Washington.
Well, yeah, that's like that guy. Yeah, it's like that guy you spoke of, O'Leary or whatever his name was earlier. They all do it. All these businessmen do it. You've criticized Bezos for how much he spent on his wedding. So if he's willing to spend that on a wedding, why not spend a couple million that's insignificant to you to curry favor with an administration, and you could do stuff to empower your company? I don't see a problem with him doing it because it's allowed. I mean, you pay the woman for a movie, you can inflate the cost to whatever you like if somebody's willing to pay for it. So there's nothing wrong with that. But if we want to get that corrected, if we are going to try to say it's some kind of, some ulterior motive that's taking place here, then let's dive into it and clean all of that up. But if you're not willing to go there, then let's not even talk about that, because the numbers are always going to shock people. But this is the president of the United States we're talking about. Those millions that were spent on that documentary, because nobody really cares about the documentary, those millions that were spent on that documentary are going to be worth billions when, Amazon... Or whichever one. Yeah, he's Amazon, right?
Yeah,
that's Bezos,
MGM,
right?
Amazon, MGM. Yeah, that's right.
Right. When they start doing these drone deliveries and all that stuff, and they need to get all these regulations and stuff cleared and all these permits passed, and he gave millions of dollars to Melania, it's going to be a windfall for Amazon. So, that's probably what's taking place. So you're on to something. That was a very smart observation you made, making that connection, and there's probably truth to it, but I don't think that people should.
Well, just for the record, Mert, Bezos was not involved in contract negotiations. Apparently,
exactly.
Yeah, everybody involved said that Bezos did not do the deal. It was Amazon MGM. But I think the optics are horrible because it raises questions. $75 million about motive. and whether Amazon was trying to curry favor with Trump, as you noticed. And I think it's like an alarm bell. It makes it look like he was trying to curry favor, and I don't think that that's necessarily the right thing here. Alex, any thoughts? Do you think it's a little dirty?
I think for a guy that also criticized Trump, it makes him look hypocritical. I mean, all these people criticize him, then all of a sudden, oh my God, we gotta go back into his good graces. I mean, it's just fake to me.
Yeah, well, that's part of the problem. And I think that Melania's image is somewhat artificial too, and that I think is why she's not resonating.
Okay.
I think she's aloof. She's aloof. I think she's not personable. How can you like someone that comes off distant? You know what I mean?
Listen,
Barbara Bush, you wanted to give her a hug. Do you remember Barbara Bush, Alex?
Well, are you going to let me? You just asked me a question. Now you go skip right over me. Let me answer it, and then you can get to Alex. I'm going to say this. When I say she's not American, of course she's a citizen. But she doesn't have the sensibilities of an American because she hasn't been an American in spirit. She's a foreign supermodel. She wants to be in Paris. She wants to be in all these exotic locations, taking pictures, being a supermodel. Supermodels don't relate with the average American. They don't want to be ran up to and hugged. They don't want to speak. They don't want to be heard. They just want to appear. They want to be supermodels. And that's exactly what she is. She shouldn't be penalized for that, but she's not going to be held up and cheered on for being a supermodel. Because like you were just about to say, the other ladies, you can recognize that. You got to teach her.
They were more lovable. You know what I mean? Laura Bush.
Absolutely.
Barbara Bush. They made good mamas, good grandmothers. You felt comfortable. And Melania, Alex, she seems to embrace distance. And distance is the one thing Americans have never wanted in a first lady. Don't you agree?
That's true. And also, I will say the other upside to her, though, is that she is a good mom. I mean, she dedicates her life to Barron.
Oh, here we go. She's a good mother. So which one of these first ladies wasn't a good mother? Like, you're not going to get credit for that. Everybody's a good mother.
I don't know if she scores enough points because she's very private about the whole Barron thing. In fact, she comes off to be quite candid. She comes off overly protective. You're not allowed to take pictures in Mar-a-Lago. If Barron walks into the room, that was in the paper just the other day, that if Barron walks in the room, no photographs are permitted. You know, she's being overly, I don't know, doting. What do you think?
Well, I think she's doing that because her being a supermodel, she understands what a bad photo can do to a career. She understands that probably better than anybody. If I get snapped the wrong way, it could ruin things. So I think she's just sensitive to, okay, what if he's eating a French fry and you take a picture of him with his mouth wide open or something like that. Now people want to make fun of him. Like, she's very image conscious because of her career. She's very smart when it comes to that type of stuff. So I could understand, hey, I don't want anybody to take a picture of him unless it's in a controlled environment because I want my son to always look like to always appear at his best, because they have plenty of pictures of Trump in situations where he's just being a human being, but you can make fun of it. So having seen how they do people, I would be a little bit sensitive too if I came from a modeling background.
Hey, look, no matter how glossy the film, how many millions you spend, the numbers tell the truth. Melania Trump is admired but not beloved. She's respected but not embraced. She's visible, not accessible, iconic but not relatable. And here's something you could relate to. This is episode 83 of Shake It Off with Bert and Lucas Live. This is Lucas Farrar. You heard from my colleague, Mert Roberts, the Mertinator, and of course, Alec Garrett. He has a great podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. And Master Control, Sambolino. We love you, Matthew Sambolin. When we come back, we'll be joined by Shannan Kim. She's the author of Find the Answers Within You. Mert, Alex, Gabby, Shannan, all of us at AM 970 will return after these quick messages. Shannan Kim, moments away. And if you need a little of insight, you'll definitely want to stick around.
New Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. Wish there was an easier way to navigate the world of real estate. If only there was a way to learn from the best. Well, now there is. Saturdays at 10, our very own Dottie Herman, Vice Chair of Douglas Elliman, gives you the inside track to what is hot in real estate. Stay one step ahead in today's seller's market as Dottie gives her tips on how to make it through the tricky waters. Doesn't matter if you're new to the game or a seasoned vet, you need to listen to Eye on Real Estate. Dottie and her team of experts will guide you as sellers and buyers to make sure you're getting the best value for your property. Whether you want to become a real estate agent or work within the business, there is no better person to learn from than the great Dottie Herman. Why? Because she is the best. Period. So tune in, Eye on Real Estate, Saturdays at 10 on AM 970, The Answer. That's Eye on Real Estate, Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock on AM 970, The Answer.
You said you'd never buy your kid candy from the checkout aisle. Or forget extra diapers. And never give in to a meltdown. You'd never lick your thumb to clean their face. Never let them have too much screen time. And never bribe them for just one more bite. You say you'd never let them out in public without their hair brushed. Never, ever become a minivan mom. And you'd never give them your phone for a quiet dinner.
Calling boss work phone.
So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, no, it can happen. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk in temperatures as low as 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Okay, what's that one called, Alex?
Search for Answers by Playlist Sons.
Search for Answers. Perfect music for our next guest. Shannan Kinn is an internationally award-winning author, podcast host, TEDx public speaker, certified professional life coach, and transformational mentor. After breaking free from the grip of alcoholism and childhood abuse, she found her purpose to share her life story to help others unravel their past, overcome the genetic blueprint of addiction and abuse, and find their own greatness. Her book, Find the Answers Within You, blends lived experience with practical guidance, offering readers a path toward healing, clarity, and personal empowerment. It's written as both a mirror and a map, a way for people to confront their history and reclaim the parts of themselves they thought were lost. She joins us now live from Alberta, Canada. Welcome to the program, Shannan.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. And I got to say, I love the music to me coming on. I was dancing here in my office. So good on you guys.
Thank you. Alex spends a lot of time finding the perfect themed music, so I'm glad you like it. Now, the Terminator, Mert Roberts, wants to have his way with you, Shannon. So get ready.
That's not accurate. Don't let him.
Are you ready? He's the Terminator.
Don't let him scare you. I'm an innocent puppy dog. I'm not here to hurt anybody. But before we get into like the book and everything like that, because I like to, ask a very personal question to anybody who's been through something. Do you miss the days where you were, I don't know if this is accurate or not. I just, from what it seems like, you might have been in drugs or something like that. Do you miss those days of being wild and out of control where you could just do whatever you felt like, no responsibility, just living life on the edge? Do you miss that?
No, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I have never, ever felt more free than I do now. Because of the fact that I literally have got nothing to hide, and I have never felt more free. No. It is so different from where I was to where I am now.
So when I ask people that question, the next thing I want to try to figure out is, so what made you go in that direction to begin with? What was it in your life that pushed you in that direction? Because a lot of people are listening to this and they're going to say, I know somebody like that, or maybe I'm going through something like that. And, maybe you can help them out by saying, well, this is what I was feeling. This is what I was seeing. And it pushed me in a dark direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so the viewers know, I was addicted to alcohol. And my alcohol of choice was wine. And with me, it was a progression. Because I was born into a household of total dysfunction.
Right.
So what was normalized was alcohol, addiction, mental illness, abuse. What people need to understand is that was my normal. I didn't know any different. And it wasn't until I got older later on in life when I started hanging out with, my friends, I started to notice things when I was about 12 or 13 years old. When you're getting out more with your friends, I was playing sports, I was going to other people's houses, I was interacting, I was seeing how other families interacted. It wasn't until then that I actually noticed that there was something really wrong with my family. Because I didn't come from a family of love at all. And I was noticing with my friends that their parents were telling them how much they loved them, their environments were safe. And that was when I slowly started to have that shame within me. Like, people would ask me what my name was, my last name, stuff like that, right? And I had a lot of shame towards my last name because I grew up in a small town up here in Canada. So, and you know what small towns are like. Everybody knows everybody.
Right.
People talk. But the sad thing was I was the youngest in my family. And I talk about this in my book. So everybody knew the reputation that my family had even before I did. That's what the really sad thing is. So I was kind of bred into the shame and lack of self-worth and all of that. And I talk very descriptively about this in my book. So as I started to get older, I started to drink more and more. I didn't know what was happening because that was already locked into my subconscious mind, right?
Well, let me ask you this, not to get into the, because we don't want to spoil the book. What was the reputation of your family?
Well, my father was an alcoholic. He was extremely abusive. And so he abused all of my brothers and sisters and my mother. And everybody knew that, but they didn't know the extent that it was. And when he was alive, I was just a toddler. He committed suicide when I was approximately 2.5. And then once he committed suicide, my oldest brother actually took on the role of my father. So that's where my abuse came in, was from my oldest brother. So I grew up with like I was told constantly that I was dumb, I was stupid, I was never going to amount to anything. And then once I got older, into my teenage years, then the names and that really started to affect me, what my brother was calling me. And he not only did that to me, he did it to my other siblings. And of course, my mother, she never protected us, because that was her normal, because how my brother abused me is exactly how my father abused my mother. So that was normal to her. So she never protected us. And I never heard my mother tell me that she loved me or anything. So as the years progressed, I really resented my mother for that.
Well, I want to say this before Lucas gets in here. Now it makes sense why you wouldn't want to go back, because the reason I asked that question is because I like to know why people don't want to go back to where they came from. And that is a good illustration of, no, I'm coming from this and I overcame it. So I'm glad that you shared that with us, because, a lot of times people think that people get involved with drinking or drugs, whatever their vice is, because it was just fun and, they didn't have anything better to do. You were born into something and you escaped it. So I really applaud that.
And I just want the audience to know, too, that for those individuals out there that do have an addiction, they're using that addiction to mask the trauma that they've gone through. And that is so important that people really, really need to understand, because people just don't go out and decide that they're going to have an addiction. I sure as heck didn't.
Right.
And you need to start asking questions, go deeper, get curious, especially with those loved ones that you really care about. There is something deeper that is going on within them. And I can almost guarantee you 100% that it is something that had happened within their childhood.
Right.
Now, Shannan, in your book, you revisit August 17th, 2019, the day you made a choice to stop drinking. Is recovery from addiction as simple as choosing to be sober, or is it a little bit more complicated? You got about 2 minutes before our break.
Well, I would have to say for me it was a choice. And the reason I'm going to say it was a choice for me was for the fact that that day I literally had enough. I had reached the end of my rope. I was asking myself the question literally, and I mean literally, how in the hell did I get here? And once I asked myself that question, I started to get more curious. I started to ask more questions. And then the biggest thing that shifted me was I knew what my why was. I wanted to be a good mother. I wanted somebody that my kids could look up to and be proud of. I wanted to be a good person. And I knew that I wanted to help anybody else that was going through the exact same thing that I was going through. So it was a choice for me, because I was so completely done. I was sick of lying to myself. I was so tired of, pretending that I was in this great marriage, which was so far from the truth, because I was being emotionally abused because I was married to a narcissist. And I was tired of being a doormat for everybody in my life. I was so done, and so that was a huge shift for me.
Wow, Shannan, it sounds terribly moving. We have to go to a break, but when we come back, I'd like you to touch upon something that you talk about in your book. You describe trauma as a gift. So when we come back, I'd like you to explain that, because that's pretty controversial. We have to take a break, though.
Yeah.
Have no fear. When we return, Shannan will rejoin us. You can learn more about her and her book at shannankim.com. That's ShannanKym.com. We'll also have links posted on our website. Mert, Alex, Shannan, and I hope you stay right where you are. So hydrate, stretch, maybe apologize to your inner child, because when Shannan speaks, she has a way of rearranging your psyche like it's poorly organized closet. She's next when we come back with more.
Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate. Unity Bank is dedicated to community-oriented banking and offers a full range of services, including business and personal accounts, business loans, and mortgages. Unity has locations throughout New Jersey and in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, expanding its footprint to 21 retail locations. Grow your savings with their great CD specials. Visit unitybank.com to find out more. Unity Bank is also a great place to work. As Unity Bank President and CEO James Hughes says, the people make Unity Bank a great place to work. We give our employees an opportunity to grow. At Unity Bank, there are no excess layers of bureaucracy as found at Goliath-sized banks. All employees have full access to management with encouragement to make decisions and grow their careers. Visit unitybank.com. That's unitybank.com for current CD and savings specials. They are FDIC insured, an equal opportunity employer, and an equal housing lender. Unity Bank, growing with you.
In classrooms across the country, chronic absenteeism is on the rise.
Sophia A., grade 4, absent.
Julio M., grade 6, absent.
Aisha S., grade 12, absent.
These absences are often due to the absence of crucial needs, like transportation, health care, a working computer, mental health support. The list goes on.
Olivia H., absent.
Preston L., absent.
Chloe B., absent.
The reasons why they're absent are very real, and yet the solution is someone present to help them along their path. When site coordinators from communities and schools are on hand, they connect kids to the resources they need. And when they do, 99% of students are present and remain in school throughout the year.
Jacob O., grade 10,
present.
Communities and Schools works directly with students, helping them overcome obstacles to succeed in school and in life. Learn more at communitiesandschools.org. Being present matters.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
We are back. We've been speaking with Shannan Kim, an internationally award-winning author, TEDx speaker, and transformational life coach whose work helps people break cycles of addiction, trauma, and inherited pain. Drawing from her own journey through alcoholism and childhood abuse, she empowers readers to reclaim their past and step into the greatness they were told they couldn't have. You can learn more about Shannan and her book at shannankim.com. S-H-A-N and two N's. Let me try that again. SHNNANKYM.com. Of course, you'll also find her book, Find the Answers Within You, on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Of course, we'll have links posted on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Now, Shannan, before the break, I asked you about an unusual description or statement that you make in your book where you describe trauma as a quote-unquote gift. I've never heard anyone describe trauma in that fashion. So can you explain why you phrase it that way?
Absolutely. The reason that I say that is because for all that I have gone through, no, I want to make it clear, I'm not happy of the trauma that I went through. But what I can say is I would never, ever be where I am today if I didn't go through that trauma. I truly believe that my purpose is in my mess. And my mess was that trauma that I went through. And now I look at my life, and it was a true gift that I am to where that I am now. Because if I didn't experience all of those horrible things that I went through, I learned so much. And from that is a gift. I understand as well, too, that I'm here on this earth to experience things. And from these things that I experience, whether they're good or if they're bad, I'm learning something. And from those learning, from me learning all of this, we are meant to teach others. And sometimes, unfortunately, the experiences that we go through are absolutely horrible or horrific. So I look at the big picture of everything that I've gone through. And through that, I have really embraced my whole entire life, who I am, but also look at the people that I am helping now through my book, through my workshops. Me being on public stages, that is a true gift all in itself. And I would not be here where I am today if it wasn't for my past. So that is what I mean, that my trauma has become has become a gift for me. And I really think that a lot of people really need to go deeper. When they look at the trauma that they've experienced, it happened for a reason.
Amen.
And so dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Why did it happen? What did you learn through that whole process? And another thing, too, is it does get, I look at when I was a child, right? I couldn't help all of that stuff that was happening to me. But it did get to a point when I was later on in life, when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, that I had to learn to take responsibility for the actions that I was doing from that moment on. And I have to take responsibility because, believe me, I played the victim and the blame game for years and years.
Wow, Mert, did you have a follow-up or?
Well, I was gonna ask this because, and this is not to be insensitive, but you went through some traumatic things. But for the rest for the majority of people who just had a normal upbringing, and they feel like, oh man, nothing's working, I can't get a promotion, I'm not the brightest person, so I ain't gonna outsmart everybody. What is your advice to them? Because somebody like you could look at somebody who ain't been through much and say, if you only knew how hard it could be. How do you reconcile how the normal person, they complain about things that you would say, I would have loved to have been scolded for not coming in, before the lights came on or whatever. You don't have it as bad as me, but you still feel certain things. What would your advice be to those people?
I'll be honest with you. I don't really judge people, when it comes to
okay, go into that. That's a good mentality.
Because I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
Everybody's got a story. My story might be more dramatic than the next person. But we all experience pain. We're all going through something. And whatever mess they're going through, their mess matters. So what I would like to say to those individuals is, whatever your mess is, it matters and it's important. And for me to look at you, I'm not going to judge you.
Well, let me ask you this.
I know what it's like. I far beyond do I know what it's like.
Can I ask you this? How much does it matter? Because if we're trying to become successful at something, how much does your mess matter? Because it's like, okay, I get what you went through, but if you're trying to be this, then you need to focus and you need to stop making excuses, because you just said it. You overcame playing the victim mentality. So where's the balance? Because how much does your past matter if other people are dealing with their own stuff?
I think through my own experiences, I can help others with their experiences, because if they're willing to talk about it, that's a huge leap. And a lot of people are too afraid to talk about what's going on in their life because they're so worried about being judged. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter if their mess is big or small. If they just talk about it and relate it to somebody else is going to heal from what they're talking about. See, that's the thing. People don't talk anymore, or they're too ashamed to talk. We got to start talking. We have to start relating to each other, because that's how we heal. We heal from other people's experiences along with our own.
Now, in the book...
And that's why Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's why you finish your thought. Yes, that's why you...
Oh, no. Now my thought just totally slipped from me, so it's okay.
Okay, sorry about that. In the book, you embrace vulnerability as your superpower. What do you mean that you embrace vulnerability as your superpower?
What I mean by that is by me sharing every aspect about me, I've got nothing to hide anymore. And like, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Anybody can ask me any question, and I have absolutely no problem asking it. For the fact that I held that shame and the secret for so many years. And I know by doing that I ended up suppressing all of my feelings and emotions. And where did it get me? I became an alcoholic is what happened. So I am so vulnerable. Like, even when I speak on stage, if something triggers me or, a feeling pops up, I'm no longer afraid to shed a tear or express my feelings. Because I know by me being vulnerable, I am touching somebody else in their heart. And they know that I'm real, because I am real. I've got nothing to hide. That's what I mean by that.
We only have a few minutes left, Shannan. Why should people pick up your book?
I think people should pick up my book because they're going to learn a lot. They're going to learn no matter what situation that they're in. And my book isn't just about addiction. It's about so many different areas in your life. And you are going to learn from those 10 pathways that I talk about in my book. And a couple of my pathways I talk about when I had my awakening, how I went into my stillness, taking responsibility. I live with these 10 pathways every single day, and I implement them in my life. And that's exactly what you will learn too. How to implement these pathways in your life so that you can find that greater version of you. And that's what's so important.
Amen. Amen. Unfortunately, Shannan, we have run out of time. Would you believe it? It was an absolute pleasure having you on the program. Find out more about Shannan and her book, Find the Answers Within You, at ShannanKym.com. That's ShannanKym.com. Of course, you'll find her on Amazon or wherever books are sold. And of course, we'll have links posted on our website, checkitofflive.com. Did I get it right, Shannan?
You did, and I'll tell you, I had an amazing time. So thank you so much for having me on your program.
Thank you. It was an honor. Well, my friends, that concludes show number 83. May I hear a amen? Amen. Special thanks to the Murdinator, Myrt Roberts, for 83 amazing episodes. That's 166 hours of live entertainment. And if you think that's easy, you do it. And to Alex, Gabby, who's home, thank you. Couldn't have done it without you. To Sambolino, working master control, we love you. And to everyone else behind the scenes, we don't have time to thank you, but we do appreciate you. Before we go, don't forget to check out my movies. My latest hit, Manor of Darkness. You'll find it on Tubi, Amazon Prime. It's an eerie time loop horror, and you'll find it on all over the place. Last month, the New York Times selected it as one of the top 5 movies you should stream. So what are you waiting for? Check out Manor of Darkness. Next up, one of my favorite shows, Culinary Confidential with Christina Gates. Her show starts at 9 p.m. here on AM 970, so stay tuned. You won't want to miss her special guest that she's got lined up for you. Join us next week when we'll have more controversial topics and more special guests just for you. My friends, same time, same place. Ciao, ciao.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.